Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on Superman Lois, and this is going to be my review for episode 6 for this season, otherwise entitled Tried and True. And a lot of stuff happened in this episode, really accelerated some storylines, and definitely ended the episode in a, whoa, what's going on here episode. But of course, not going to jump into specifics now because, spoiler, if you not watched the episode, go away because we're going to be talking about everything for the most part that happened in this episode. So go away, then come back later on if you've not watched the episode. But of course, if you have watched it and want to leave your opinions down there, be sure to leave them down there in the comment section down below. Always curious to hear what you guys think of the episode and also your opinions on the ending and where it could lead. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video and you enjoyed the episode and just want to show your support, want to drop a like on the video to do all that. So last episode pretty much set up everything that happens in this episode outside of probably one thing. So last episode we had Kyle being exposed for his affairs with a woman named Tonya, which ruins Sarah's quinceanera or quinceanera, whichever way you want to pronounce it. Jordan learns that Jonathan has powers, though that starts to unravel early on in this episode. And Bizarro reveals that Ali is pretty much the villain, and that's who he's targeting. Now, there's other people that are getting in the way, like Superman himself and the Superman of America and other people, but Ali is his true target. Now, as I was saying before, this episode had a lot of moving parts and definitely towards the end started to unravel. Well, a lot of things started to unravel in regards to a positive side for our characters. So this episode was called Tried and True. It should have been called Ow. This is just really painful for everyone's storylines because nothing positive is really happening here. And it must be said, next week we have episode 7, but that's I think we have a break, a week or two break or something after that episode. So we can almost treat next week as almost like a mini mid-season finale because they are taking, I think it's like a 1 or 2 week break. Not too sure how long it is. But that's around the halfway point of the season anyway, so you can just pretend it's like a mid-season finale. But in regards to this episode, we start with a really cool scene. I wasn't too sure exactly what it was, like, for the first few seconds, and I was like, oh my god, we're seeing this happen. So we start with a flashback, like a flashback montage, that's the best way to put it, of Bizarro on his Earth with everything in ruins, the barns, being burnt, the house looks all decrepit. It's pretty insane. I don't know if it's meant to be the opposite of that because the Smallville house that we're, on our Earth is nice and tidy and everything. I'm not too sure exactly what the meaning of that is or if it's just... Anyway, everything just looks terrible. Like the world's in ruins with Lois and Jonathan appearing to be dead on this Earth based off the photos that Bizarro had in that house. They had like X's over their face. So Lois had an X and Jonathan had an X, but Jordan didn't. So I don't know if we learn more about this Bizarro version of Jordan and maybe what happened to him. But Bizarro does take a puff from an inhaler like Jonathan has been doing, but it was green. I think it was green kryptonite. Like his eyes lit up blue, but when he puffed out, it was green. So I'm assuming it was green kryptonite instead of because it's the opposite. Next kryptonite is what kryptonite to Superman is. So green kryptonite to him would be what X kryptonite is to our Superman and everyone else that's taking it. It sort of, enhances your powers. Now we see that Lana is a part of the Superman of America on this Earth, and we do see this sequence where Bizarro is taking on these DoD soldiers, which I didn't think much of at that point, but then later in the episode you go, oh, well there's a connection, but we'll come back to that later in the episode. But then Bizarro kills Ali from his Earth, so we get to see the Ali on his Earth. So there was a theory that Ali, the Ali that was affecting his Earth was the same Ali. The pendant was allowing her to do multiple things. This kills out that rumor. So there was 2 different versions, as you'd expect, from these 2 different Earths. But he kills, Ali and takes her pendants. That's why he had it around her neck, because he literally took the other pendant that this Ali had, like our Ali has on this Earth. With him actually flying and driving through his minds to get through to ours. Now, in regards to the logic of that, there's going to be some questions around that. Because it's not like he traveled through the multiverse. He literally just travel through the minds, but then you could argue that there's some method around that. If anyone wants to explain it, feel free to, because I don't really know how to. But just, it's comic booky. It's a comic book show. Just accept it. But the question I have is why does he look like that? Because he looks still like the Bizarro version on his Earth, where Lana looked normal, like everyone else in that photo looked normal. What do you call it? Ali looked normal. That's what I'm questioning. Maybe there's a reason for that we'll find out. There's still a lot of episodes to go. So maybe it could be next episode they reveal that in some sort of flashback or some sort of explainer as to what's going on there. And I'm curious to see what the reasoning for that is. But we do learn that our Earth, or Earth Prime, like the Earth that Superman and Lois and everyone and the Flash and all them are on, and Bizarro's Earth were once one Earth, but then they were split, and that's where the connections with the pendants come about. And this also explains the opposites of everything, with Bizarro's sun even being red on his Earth, I noticed that, and the yellow sun of our Earth actually awakening him like the red sun would to Superman, which once again connects to the scene later in the episode. But if Ali is able to get both of those pendants, that's not going to be good. It will make her pretty much a god, and yeah, you don't want that. But jumping into some of the stuff that's continuing throughout this episode, Lieutenant Anderson is still feeling the pressure, and I guess he's now understanding that he's under some pressure after not having the best of relations with Superman. And you thought, like, I guess some would have been like, oh, maybe he'll try hard this episode and try and strengthen that bond. And I think I said in my trailer breakdown, he doesn't seem like the guy that would do that. He seems like he'd be the guy to make things even worse, trying to prove a point. And that's sort of what happens. But Jordan does see an inhaler fall out of Jonathan's bag, and Jonathan gives, like, not the best excuse, because it definitely doesn't look like a normal inhaler you get from, like, the chemist or something, which was the excuse he used. So that sort of plants the seed. I don't think Jordan thought of anything of it too much, but obviously when things start to play out later in the episode, things just fall apart, don't they? Now, the fallout from the Quinceanera, as you'd expect, was a pretty big thing in this episode, with Sophie, the other child of the Cushings, appearing in 2 episodes in a row. Crazy record. Can we get 3 next week? Who knows? But Kyle goes home to apologize and explain himself, and that was a great scene between Lana and Kyle. And like, I think that side of the episode definitely had the most, like, probably the best acting. Like, you can tell, like, that's where, like, they focused on, they probably reshot a lot of scenes there trying to get the perfect moment between those 2 actors. And I think it worked. I think their scenes between each other were really good. But speaking of drama, Lois's father, Sam, shows up uninvited and without warning, which you can tell where this story was going to go, and that was the starting off point. And this was intentional, him doing that, as he brought along Lucy with him, Lois's sister, so they can have a family chat. And as you'd expect, there is drama from the get-go, but Sam's goal is to just not involve Ali in these conversations and the reconciliation between Lucy and Lois, and it starts to work when it actually sort of involves conversation about family and memories and just keeping everything internalized in their conversations. It's instant growth. But the question is, how long can you avoid bringing up the external stuff? Now, we get this long-awaited scene, this funeral for the 2 Supermen of America that have died, because it's been like 4 different trailers. It's like, when are we getting this scene? It finally drops in this episode with Superman's presence and his just apologies for the 2 deaths being accepted by the families of the 2 that died. With Lieutenant Anderson's, well, sort of given the opposite. He was like the Bizarro in this situation. Getting slapped. It sort of reminded me of the scene from Jaws after the little boy is killed by, Jaws, the shark, and the mother slaps Captain Brody. So that's Lieutenant Anderson in that situation. I don't know if I think that's what they might have been going for. It felt pretty much exactly like that scene from Jaws. But anyway, I don't know if I was the only one that noticed that. But Superman in this situation explains to Lieutenant Anderson that the pendant isn't just some random ornament and collectible from Bizarro. It's important, but Superman can't fully explain why. And you can sort of understand why, or you can understand the reason Anderson is frustrated, because he's being left in the dark from a lot of information. He's meant to be the head of the DoD, know a lot of this stuff and everything like that. But as we saw earlier in the season, as many people that don't know what's going on, the better. I mean, we saw what happened when people knew too much, especially Lieutenant Anderson. 2 of the Supermen were killed by Bizarro. That funeral is literally because Anderson went against what Superman, was wanting. Just like, hey, I can handle it. Just let me do it. And Anderson went, well, no, I'm going to do what I want. And it ended up with 2 people getting killed when they could have still been alive. And of course, the next situation just angers Anderson even more, because it's just going against what Anderson wants. And that's when Superman saves a small Russian city or village from an avalanche, which of course, once again, goes against Anderson's wants for Superman, being a protector of America and only America. So first Superman saves North Koreans early in the season, and now Russians. Now, in the North Korea situation, it was, I guess, worse in the eyes of Anderson because it was their military. With the Russian situation, it was just like a small village. Now, just a side note, I know you probably see some people on Twitter make it political. So I'm like, oh my God, they included Russians in this. But it's not like he's saving Vladimir Putin or something like that. It's just some innocent civilians. And of course, this episode was done ages ago. They can't predict the future. Like at this point, with Superman sort of like just going international on purpose, like Anderson, like, well, not on purpose, but just going international, Anderson probably thinks Superman is messing with him on a colossal level. But Anderson thinks he has a way of actually bringing in Bizarro, but it's going to need approval from his higher up, so it must be a big move. And I wasn't too sure exactly what it was going to be until the end. I was like, oh, this is where we're going? Now we have Clark's talk with Lana. Now this was a good scene. A good scene between the two, especially because of how long they've known each other, and also because we know what Clark's feelings were for Lana, and then Lana was with Kyle. You can argue Kyle was Mr. Steal your girl in that situation. So it was a good talk between the two. Showed a lot of maturity as well. But it leads Lana to talking to Kyle's side piece, that being Tonya, and Tonya gives her view on their relationship and what happened, but also lets slip what really broke them off. And it wasn't Kyle just going, this doesn't feel right. I can't do this anymore. It was the situation around Sarah and going to save his family. But really, if he just did it on his own accord outside of the situation, it would have been more to save his marriage and the integrity around that marriage. And that annoys Lana. And this is when we have Lana going to Kyle at work and addressing what she has learned and pretty much just understanding why Kyle broke it off, and it wasn't really for the reason it probably should have been. She asks Kyle to, and it sort of and it makes her question her feelings and everything like that in the future. She asks Kyle to properly move out with her, questioning all this stuff. Now, the big question is like, what happens next with Kyle? I'm not too sure specifically what's going to happen, because I doubt next episode it's going to be like, oh, Lana accepts Kyle back. Don't think that's going to happen. I have this theory that maybe Allie gets Kyle under her thumb and is able to bring him in, similar to what she did with Lucy and other people. That wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Not saying that's going to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me. So maybe that's where they could take Kyle going forward. But the big climactic stuff of the episode that, involved three of the storylines is football time. Yeah, American football, man. So Jonathan takes some ex-kryptonite before, making sure everyone's gone in a bit of a sus way. With it, of course, heightening his performance and making him play good. But, of course, it doesn't feel deserved. And that's the thing that Jonathan brings up later on. It's like, well, I mean, I played good, but I didn't actually really have to do anything. It was the ex-kryptonite just heightened everything, so I didn't really have to try. But Lois, Lucy, and Sam are in the crowd of the football game as well. And the good vibes are rolling on between them. But as I said earlier, this whole Allie thing, it's a hard topic to avoid for good. And Allie comes up again. And as you'd expect, the gloves are off. The gloves are completely off. And Lucy refuses to really sense any form of danger with what Allie is doing and understand where Lois is coming from. But Lois is also refusing to accept that she was wrong about making Lucy out to be delusional, because she had Chrissy go through that exact same thing and describe exactly what Lucy was saying. So it was true what was happening. It's just that on the other side, Lucy doesn't just see the threat in all of that and what's actually happening. But along with this, we learn that Timmy, who is the player that Jonathan replaced on the team, or, for the game, is actually sick from taking the ex-kryptonite. He's, the police is investigating what's happening with the inhalers and stuff. And of course, that makes Jordan even more suspicious after the inhaler fell out of Jonathan's bag early in the episode. And Jordan does confront Jonathan. There's a bit of, back and forth and potential. I thought like Jonathan was going to shoot his heat vision at Jordan's forehead or something. And write idiot or something, engrave it in his head with the heat vision. But Sam does arrive just in time to break them up, so that's good. But I did see the trailer for next week briefly, and it looks like there's some drama that this Jonathan stuff is going to continue, so let's see what happens in regards to that. But we'll involve that in the trailer breakdown probably tomorrow for when you're seeing this video. But the big climactic thing for the episode, which really threw me off guard and made me go, oh, I did not see this coming, is when Superman is called into the DOD by Anderson, and we get a scene pretty spot on to what we saw in the flashbacks of Bizarro's world to start the episode, with the red lights coming on, the red sunlights coming on to depower Superman, and he's surrounded by DOD soldiers. Superman won't trust Anderson in his eyes, so Anderson will not trust Superman. So we get this scene where it's Superman versing the DOD soldiers with a depowered Superman, which was cool, like we saw with Bizarro at the beginning of the episode. But Anderson goes on to shoot Superman with a kryptonite bullet, with Sam reporting, or like a kryptonite, like a tranquilizer. It was weird. It was like, is it a bullet? Is it a tranquilizer? It was similar to what we saw in that first episode. Oh, not the first episode, but in season 1. So it's like a bullet, but not a full-on bullet, just like it's meant to like weaken him. With Sam actually going on to report towards the end of the episode to Lois what's happened, and we learn that Clark has actually been arrested for treason, with him being taken to the same holding facility that Talrow or Morgan Edge is being kept in, like we saw earlier in the season. So once again, saw in the trailer that they're going to be having some fun together. I have no idea where the season's going. Will Anderson be seen as corrupt? Is this like Anderson's like villain origin or something like that? Does Anderson see the error in his ways and what he's doing? I don't know where this is going, and I am pleasantly surprised and can't wait to see where it goes, because I didn't see this happening at least this early into the season. 6 episodes in, we got 9 left. I mean, yeah, didn't see that happening. Yeah, overall, this episode was a big story episode. There was really no filler. Like, it continued all this story stuff, like what, 4 or 5 different storylines, and I think they blended pretty well together. The only thing I had an issue with was I would have maybe preferred if the Lana and Kyle stuff was maybe the first half of the episode. Maybe they pushed some of the other stuff to the back, so it was more, maybe there was like some, yeah, I don't know. That's just a minor that's me nitpicking just for the sake of it. Like, just where it was placed maybe was the only issue, but I can't wait to see where that goes. Even the Jonathan stuff in this Kryptonite, like, Timmy was sick and he's in, like, what are we going to get long-lasting effects with Jonathan? Like, I can't wait to see where it goes. Maybe taking it turns you into that, what Bizarro was looking like, because he was taking that green Kryptonite as well. It has me intrigued, but that's for us to wait and find out. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like and show your support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on this episode and what you think of it and everything like that. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later, and goodbye.